Damn it. Damn it. So if you have worked on an old Chevy, you've probably run into this before. What happens is when you remove the exhaust manifolds on some of these old Chevys, the manifold tends to warp, kind of shrink itself a little bit inwards. So when you go to reinstall it, the bolt holes won't line up. So what we're going to do is show you this little tool that we got from Lisle. It's going to make this job a lot less frustrating. So the way we want to start installing this manifold is with the center bolts first. This seems to work the best, at least for me. Once we get the center bolts in, make sure the gasket's already in place. Then we'll go ahead and start putting these Lisle manifold spreaders on here. So this is the Lisle manifold spreader. I got this on Amazon. The link's down below. You're going to need two of these at least for each manifold. So you can buy two and do one manifold at a time. You don't really need four unless you want to install these before removing the manifolds, which will make them easier to put back on. It'll hold them kind of in place, keep their shape, and then when you go to reinstall the manifolds, they'll be good to go. You can just slide the bolts right in. Otherwise, you can just do two like I have here and just do one manifold at a time. So the procedure here is to install the spreaders and then check bolts. So if the bolts won't thread in, then we'll want to tighten these manifold spreaders until the bolts will thread in. You have to be really careful with these spreaders. As you can see, that they kind of want to slide out of place. Yeah, you really have to place them exactly perfect because the way they're designed on the ends that contact the manifolds, they both have a concave shape to them, when really one needs to be concave and one needs to be flat, the way this manifold is designed. But it's not like that, so unfortunately you just have to kind of go through the grind of, you know, maybe holding it or moving it or rotating it. The point is that you're going to want to get it in the right spot so that when you rotate this thing, it doesn't just slide right out from under you. So I had to end up repositioning this one here because it just wouldn't stay in place. So put it where you need to put it and then start checking bolts. You'll want to continue to tighten these spreaders until you're able to hopefully thread the bolts in by hand. If you have to use a small ratchet, then you can do that, but it needs to the bolt needs to thread in easily like this. If it's hard to go in, then you haven't spread it enough. Don't force the bolts in because you don't want to ruin the threads on your heads. I'm applying some anti-seize to all the threads on these bolts. It's absolutely not necessary that you do this, but it is a good idea to at least clean all the rust off of the bolts. Any kind of rust or anything like that's gonna make it feel harder than it is to thread in, and we want this to go in as easily as possible. We want to make sure that we don't damage any threads. So the anti-seize not only helps to lubricate it and make it easier to thread in, it also will make it easier to get out when the time comes. So that's basically how it works. You turn the spreader and then check the bolt. And if it still feels tight, we'll turn the spreader some more. Turn the bolt again. Check the thread, see if it's threading in easily. If not, then turn the spreader some more. If you spread the manifolds too much, it may feel like the manifold bolts are getting tighter instead of looser, so then you'll just turn the spreader back the opposite way and then check the bolt again. Okay, with all the bolts threading easily, I'm going to leave the manifold spreaders in place and reinstall the heat shields. It's really difficult to get these spreaders where they need to be with the heat shields in place, so once I get all the bolts spinning freely into the heads, then I'll just remove 2 of the bolts at a time and reinstall the heat shields. So that just about wraps this video up, guys. This job can be extremely frustrating and damn near impossible without these manifold spreaders. So pick a couple of them up, and the important thing is take your time, don't force the bolts in, let the spreaders do the work for you. Thanks for watching and good luck.